Speak loudly. Okay. St Patrick's Day, that's why we're here. We're here to celebrate St Patrick's Day, the final session. So I should firstly start with attire. So anybody, thank you for that. Anybody that's not wearing anything green, or anybody that's not wearing a fake wedding ring, which is a sham rock, by the way. Anybody that's not wearing one of those two things, I'll take $1 off, please. And that doesn't include people with green underpants. Excuse me? Hello. Green undies. No, we've excluded green underwear, thanks very much. Now the other thing is, excuse me, we've only just started. I would like to know in this room, because we're celebrating all things Irish, if anybody has any Irish in them, I'd like you to say top of the morning loud, please. Top of the morning to you. I'm sorry? Top of the morning. No, I said I'm sorry that you're Irish. So anyone that just said top of the morning, I'll have another $1 from. Thanks very much. Now, many people think the Irish are stupid. They're not stupid at all. It's just that their logic is a little bit different from the rest of us. So, for instance, my next door neighbour, who's Irish, said to me yesterday, my son Seamus, she said, has got a job. And he's just got a new job and he's got 2,000 people under him. I said, really? She said, yes, he works in a cemetery. This is fairly typical of the Irish. Last Saturday, of course, was St Patrick's Day, and one Irishman unfortunately did it a little bit too hard and died. And he went up to heaven and St Peter was there and he said, to get in here, he said, you have to answer a question. He said, can you tell me what's got 5 fingers and is generally made of leather or wool? And Mick said, no idea. He said, it's a glove. He said, okay. He said, listen, I want you to come in. He said, I'll make it easy for you. He said, what's got 10 fingers and is made of either leather or wool? And Mick says, no idea. He said, 2 gloves. He said, I really want to come in. He said, well, listen. He said, I'll make it easy for you. He said, who's the patron saint of Ireland? He said, it wouldn't be 3 gloves by any chance. So anybody here, this is a bit left of field, but if you own more than 1 pair of gloves, can you stick $1 in the gloves? I happen to think, just quietly though, I happen to think that this St Patrick is a bit of a con man. I mean, his biggest claim to fame was that he drove the snakes out of Ireland.
He converted the heathens.
I mean, yeah, well, yes, thanks for that, Chris, that'll be $1. He drove the snakes out of Ireland. I'm not altogether certain how many snakes there were in Ireland prior to St Patrick mentioning this, but the year previous, I don't know if you know this, but he was just painting all the tops of the lampposts in Ireland. That's $5. Peter. He was actually seen painting all the tops of the lampposts in Dublin pink. And a policeman came up to him and he said, Patrick, what are you doing? He said, I'm painting all the tops of these lamppost pinks to keep the elephants out of Dublin. And the policeman said to him, well, there's no elephants in Dublin. He said, it's good stuff. So, what I'd like you to do, if you've seen an elephant or a snake in a zoo or parts of Africa in the last 5 years, you can stick $1 in. Now, the other thing is, you know, talking about Irish logic, if you see the flag's over here. For those of you that don't know, the flag is orange, green and white. And the reason it's orange, green and white is because the green represents the people from the south, the orange represents the people from the north. And believe it or not, the white represents the peace and friendship between the two of them.
That's worth $1.
See, I do find that a bit odd. In fact, you see, sometimes they do get a bit upset, the Irish. I was in Belfast about 10 years ago, and I went into a petrol station and I said, I'd like some petrol. He said, we don't have any petrol. I said, well, okay, I'll have some oil. He said, we don't have any oil. This is an IRA garage. I said, okay, just blow up my tyres. You may have noticed, by the way, you may have noticed that this week there's been a thing on the news last night about the cost of petrol. And this actually happened in Dublin as well. So a very entrepreneurial Irish garage owner said that if you fill your full tank up, you can have free sex. So Mick drove his car in and he liked the look of this, so he's filled his tank up and he said to the garage owner, okay, I'll have you free sex. Garage owner said, well, it's not quite as simple as that. He said, you've got to answer a question. He said, give me a number between 1 and 10. If you're correct, you can have free sex. He said, 8. The garage owner said, I'm sorry, it's 7. So the following week, Mick goes back in, he fills his tank up again. He said, right, I'll do it again. He said, 3. Garage owner said, sorry, Mick, 2. So as Mick's driving out, he said to Paddy, he said, look, this is a con. This is a con. He said, the guy's just put that up there. He's never going to get free sex. Mick said, well, I'm not sure about that. He said, my wife won a free side last week. So, any of you that have been in a garage and filled up with petrol in the last week, I'll take $1 off. And anybody that's had free sex in the last week, I'll take $2 off. Any $2 out there? Any $2? Anyway, listen, the other, I love the Irish. I'm talking about the logic, you know, the Irishman that went into a bank last week, he said, this is a cock-up. I said, don't you mean a hold-up? He said, no, I've forgotten my gun. And it was funny, you know, because the police came and sealed off all the exits. He left by the entrance. Any of you that's been in the bank last week, I'll have $1 off, please. Now, just quietly, obviously it can't be that quiet because you're making so much noise, but listen, does anybody know what the national emblem of Ireland is? Shamrock, snake. Now, you're all wrong, you can all put $1 in. The national emblem of Ireland is actually a heart. So you can stick $1 in for that. Does anyone know the other unique point about that being the national emblem of Ireland?
I get rid of the big one.
No, the other, so you've got to put another $1 in because the uniqueness about the Irish emblem, which is actually the heart, is the fact that it's the only emblem in the world, national emblem, that is in fact a musical instrument. So you've learned something today, that's good, isn't it? Cost you a bit of money, but you've learned something. Now, talking about Guinness, if you look at a Guinness bottle or a Guinness can, the heart is actually on the middle of any Irish can or Irish thing. Do you know what's written on the bottom of an Irish Guinness bottle?
Open another end.
Open another end, correct. What does it say on the top?
Dollar.
Instructions on the bottom. And if I didn't know that, we'll have another $1. Now, just a couple of things to go before we finish, because we must have taken nearly $5 off everybody. Who here in this room, Karen, who here in this room has been on a London Underground?
Yes.
Just stick your hands up, please, just a show of hands. Okay. No money yet, you notice. Okay. Any of you that's been on London Underground will notice there's a sign at the bottom of all of these London Underground escalators that say dogs must be carried on the escalator. So Mick and Paddy are there at 2 o'clock in the morning. They said, where are we going to find a dog at this time of night? Those of you that haven't been on a London Underground before, stick $1 in. And last but not least, the 2 Irishmen that come to Sydney, and they've run out of money, they've gone berserk. St Paddy's Day, they've spent all their money. They got $7.50 between them. Mick says to Paddy, he says, what are we going to do? $7.50. We're here for 6 months. What are we going to do?
Northern Ireland, obviously.
Thanks for that, Michael. Another $1. Did I see you on Sally last night, Mike? Interference. You obviously never learned how to swim, he can't keep his mouth shut. Anyway, they come over to Sydney, and I've forgotten where I was now. Well, that's right, they're up the King's Cross, they spent all their money. $7.50 left. What are we going to do? So Mick says to Paddy, well, go down to the chemist. He said, the chemist? He said, yes, trust me. So they go down to the chemist. Mick says to Paddy, what have you bought for the last $7.50?